and welcome, dear associations, to this kickoff session for the Association Show. My name is Torben, and I'm Vice President of Product Marketing and Events at Eventmobi. This company makes the platform that you are currently using to participate in this event. This is how far the advertising in this session goes. I have been an event planner for more than 15 years and spent almost 10 years on the supplier side teaching event planners how to make sense of technology. Besides, I teach event management and event marketing at Victoria University in Berlin, Germany. So, pardon my accent. Speaking of teaching, our subject today is an adamant one. I want to talk to you about how to make sense of hybrid for association events. In the next 20 minutes, I want to get you to think differently about hybrid events. Actually, I want to go even one step further. I want you to really understand what hybrid events are. And that's a tough one because all of our preconceptions have changed in the last 18 months. Finally, I want to put hybrid into perspective for practical membership engagement strategies. Sounds good? Let me start with a bold statement. Hybrid events are terrible. If you agree, or if you had any reasons in the past to not organize a hybrid event, feel free to use the chat on your left-hand side and tell me what you found challenging about hybrid events. We will try to bring some of your comments on screen for everybody to see. In preparation for this session, I spoke to a lot of association planners to understand better what their challenges were. And here are some of my findings. Hybrid events are terribly expensive, and that's fair. In an old world hybrid view, you run 2 events at the cost of twice instead of running 1. What's even worse, hybrid events may be intuitively cheaper, but that's not true though, if you bring stream quality closer to the television level. Associations also want to go back to in-person, and hybrid is often seen as an intermediate solution. Looking at hybrid events as an in-between solution is not the way to go about this though. They deserve their own place in our toolkit. A big concern that already existed with virtual events is the fear of cannibalizing your on-site meetings. This is a valid point. However, let me put this into perspective. The German Soccer Association, or actually we call it football, did not want to televise games until the mid-90s because they were scared of empty stadiums. Stadiums in Germany are still packed every weekend, and now they make the most money off TV licenses. Finally, many associations were also worried about how to communicate with their boards about hybrid events. Will the board understand, and will the planner get the buy-in from their colleagues? So those are many reasons why associations may not appreciate hybrid. And I'm sure there are many more. I then asked association planners what hybrid is. As a reaction, I got a lot of confused faces. So this leads me to think. Firstly, we need to talk about hybrid and what it really means. And at this stage, I want you to try to forget whatever you know about hybrid events. Events so far have been a tragedy. And I don't mean that in the ordinary modern meaning of the word, but in the antique Greek definition of a classical tragedy. Events apply the classical unities, the unity of time, place, and action. If you think about it, events generally do not move around. They happen either on one day or more consecutive days, focusing on one thing and one thing only. We have come to realize over the past few months that this is not necessary. Instead, we can break these rules. If we want to address these issues I mentioned earlier and those you brought forward, we can do that. So let's take hybrid apart. Hybrid events all share the leading principle that they are based on 2, at least initial, separate audiences. The first audience is the on-site audience. We know those folks well. We control their experience because we control where they are, what they do, who they are, and what they see. This has been our job as event planners for years. We chose hotel, we choose decoration, and sometimes we even control the thermostat. The second audience is the remote audience. Hybrid participants are much harder to control, and we need to embrace that. We do not know whether they are participating in our event from their desks, on their iPad sitting on the couch, or if they are in their cars driving to work on their phone, which I guess they shouldn't do, or even if they are on vacation. We do not control that, and subsequently we should not try to care too much. And I know this is hard, coming from a past where we literally controlled everything. So let's visualize this for a moment. Let's do a chart. I will draw the in-person audience on an x-axis. 0 means no engagement, 5 means medium engagement, and 10 means high engagement. The more the event leans to the left, the more content, entertainment, interaction we want to deliver to those audiences. Imagine 0 being a seminar somewhere in a motel conference room. Imagine 10 being the most immersive and fun conference you can think of. Now let's make this event hybrid. Let's add a y-axis. The same principles apply. 0 means little engagement. This could be a pure live stream. Watching maybe your association press conference done online. 10 represents the most amazing online experience you can imagine. Something close to perhaps online games that keeps people in front of their screens for hours. Do you notice something already? Anything that happens on this chart is a hybrid event. And what I want you to understand is that these all have justification for existing in their own right. So whether you put a dot on this chart, no matter where you do that, has its own price, strengths, and weaknesses. For the sake of simplicity, let's put a few boxes in so we can explore what happens at these events. This is just so we can understand a little better what we're looking at. See the bottom box next to 0, 0? To me, this is the least engaging hybrid event. Someone talks in front of an audience, afterwards everybody goes home. Remote audiences watch a stream on YouTube or Zoom. And to be fair, for some events, this may be all it needs. If the content is super potent and the audience super diverse, then this is legitimate. Think of a classical music concert. There is no interaction, yet audiences remote and on-site apparently get immense enjoyment from watching classical music. And again, this may work in your association context as well. Press conferences, as a good example, do serve a purely informational purpose. So choosing little engagement for both audiences is nothing to be ashamed of. Let's take the box at 10, 0, so the bottom right box. This means low remote engagement, high on-site engagement. This is what we classically call hybrid events. We do our very best to produce an on-site event, but we don't deliver much more than a stream when it comes to remote audiences. This is perfect if you're a small, tightly knit local associations. You run your event as you always do, but you would also stream, maybe for audiences that cannot attend, maybe for audiences that want to learn more about your association. So far, so good. Now let's look at 0, 10. Low on-site engagement, high remote engagement. Virtual town halls may be just that. Maybe your association has a national town hall. You invite everybody to join remotely, and your local chapters will hold very simplistic in-persons around it. For example, renting a movie theater in every state to watch the town hall with regional chapter members. Participation would be done the same way proper remote audiences would participate, via digital interaction tools, and maybe you throw in a dinner afterwards for the on-site people. Low engagement for remote audiences, high on-site engagement, but at the end of the day, another very legitimate use of hybrid. See where I'm going with this? You are in power. You can play around and control how much happens on-site or remotely. And you can thus control questions around cost, around how much buy-in you need. You also control how interesting choosing your remote part of a hybrid event over the on-site part would be. So at the end of the day, while on-sites are so much fun, should associations really dictate how membership takes part in their events? I don't think so, but I think this is a debate worth having. But what happens at the extremes? Let's dial it up to a double 10. This is where we have high engagement on both ends. So imagine an event where you're thoughtfully preparing activities, hosts, and sometimes even sessions for the remote and on-site audience. And yes, that's where things become expensive, and I will get back to that in a bit, but also where you can design your event so the audiences get the best of the way they consume the event. What that means in particular, in on-site workshop sessions, you may want to use classical design tools, such as canvases, post-it notes, and different seating setups with facilitators, so the session becomes really interactive. Online, you may want to use mass crowdsourcing formats, such as online collaborative boards, quizzes, randomized networkings, and others to foster an exchange and meaningful connection. And if you dare, you may even link those sessions. And this is where things become really interesting, but also a bit more complicated. I'm trying to say this with this chart. Nobody is telling you what a hybrid event is and what it should be. The 4 out of the 9 subdivisions I have shown you are all legitimate hybrid events that work differently for different audiences. You have to decide based on your event goals which one works best for you. Feeling dizzy yet? It's about to get crazier. So before we do that, here's a cute picture of a cat. So let's take 5 seconds, breathe in, and maybe use the chat to tell me whether you're a dog or a cat person. I know Joan, who will be on the interactive session right after this, is an absolute cat person. So I promised I would also talk about community for 2 main reasons. Firstly, the community is one of the basic principles of any association. Secondly, if you involve the broader community idea, you may get help from your membership colleagues and likely more buy-in from your board. Remember the XY plot I drew earlier to free your mind when it comes to hybrid events? We can take this one a step further and make it really crazy. Introducing the Z-Axis Synchrony. The Oxford English Dictionary defines synchrony as simultaneous action, development, or occurrence. So please take a step back and consider this. What happens online and on-site at your event does not need to occur at the same time. Is that still an event? I would argue so. And you know what else happens asynchronously? Communities. So this is where your event and your community merge. Let's take our old friend, the 10-10 event. So far, we only considered that our hybrid events happen online and on-site at the very exact moment. What if we slightly change what happens at any given moment? Could the on-site event and the online event have different contents? They sure could. They could share some, but they could also diverge on others. When I talked about using the different channels, online and on-site, to their strengths, this is precisely what you would be doing. It's not the same content delivered at the same time, but it's different specific content at other times for other audiences. And this may already bring your costs down if the remote part is uncoupled with less expensive equipment. Now you don't have to film on a big stage instead. You can record sessions and stream them. And this is totally legitimate to do in an event. You may want to completely uncouple the events. For example, have your online event before the on-site, or the other way around. Or have them overlap at some points only. You will bring the cost down because suddenly you need to accommodate fewer resources simultaneously and at the same spot. You may even improve the quality of your event, since you can bring learnings from your remote event to the on-site and vice versa. What I'm trying to inspire you to do is go nuts. You can control the engagement dimensions for on-site and remote. You can control the synchrony. And if we stick to our 9 initial boxes and add 3 markers on the Z-axis, we suddenly have 27 boxes, each with their own event type, advantage, disadvantages, each with its own cost and complexity. Going asynchronous tackles a few other problems. Nobody wants to attend a 7-hour online event, but now you don't have to do that anymore. Instead, you can split out the remote part even over weeks and deliver continuous points of connection to your audience and have them engaged with your association over a more extended period. Some speakers may even still be not comfortable traveling. Not a problem. Bring them in remotely. You may notice now how the lines between your events and your online community become blurry. Does that make you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel like you're stepping into your coworkers' territory? Well, you probably are. But just like hybrid is tearing down the barriers between physical and online events, it doesn't make much sense to regard events and community engagement as two totally separate pieces. So how do you manage this? Well, for starters, embracing this change and planning your events together with your colleagues in the community and member engagement is an excellent idea. ASAE's paper, Decision to Join, is still a standard in thinking about our membership and community. Some key points are focusing on the collective rather than the individual, encouraging involvement and focusing on what you're good at. The easiest way to apply this to your hybrid events is reconsidering where you deliver events and where your community lives. In times before event apps, you may have publicized your program of your conference within the community section of your website. Event apps shifted that for many right reasons. Events became technology powerhouses of their own, and association websites could often not deliver the same value event apps or specific event websites could provide. So they grew apart. When, about 18 months ago, virtual events became mainstream, we kept that paradigm. Frankly, we should reconsider that. For example, can your association platform become the space where you host events, or could your event platform for online, on-site, or hybrid events become the space in which your community lives in? Anecdotally, we see communities moving this way and associations giving up on the monolithic nature of events. In the past, everyone tried to extend the event life cycle past the closing day. And this is finally happening. So many event platforms become a kind of Netflix-esque library for events and content after the event. Tools such as one-on-one video chat features or group chat tools become the place where connection happens outside of the event and where your community can meet and exchange. Using native apps, the platform becomes, for example, an instant communication tool from the association to your members with push notifications. This, in turn, also changes the way your event stands. Instead of being a standout occurrence, it becomes part of what it means to be a member of your association. When large meetings happen, your community space may reflect that. Just like you may decorate your head office for Christmas, you can decorate your community space when it's AGM time. Members that cannot attend on site will naturally find their place there. Asynchronous sessions could happen there. It changes the way virtual, on-site and hybrid events are woven into the fabric that is your association. Hybrid events do not need you to break your bank or bully your board. They're here to serve you, not the other way around. You can shape them into what you want. What they need is your imagination. I hope this can inspire you to rethink your strategy. Thank you.